Hello and welcome to another edition of the Hooligan Report. I'm your host, as always, SM, and with me this evening I have Cruyff.
Good evening.
And I also have Fryer Tuck.
Good evening.
Second round down, dusted, and we're getting quite far. Well, we're getting into the season now.
Yeah, good to have a win under the belt.
Yeah, well, got a win finally, yeah. And Arsenal got a loss, as we sort of predicted last week. But we're sort of starting to see...
Thanks.
No worries. We're starting to see some of the cream rising to the top, as to borrow the phrase of a well-known poster from the board. And I guess we'll start with said cream, which was United, who managed another 4-0 win to go with their 4-0 win last week against West Ham. In pretty impressive fashion in the end against Swansea. I mean, they sort of made a bit of a hash of it for about 80 minutes. But then really towards the end turned the game on its head and with 3 goals in about 5 minutes or so. I'll start with you, Cruyff. Obviously they looked a bit scrappy in the first half, and Bailly got that goal right on half-time to really kind of get them going. But it was really the introduction of Martial off the bench towards the end of the game that sort of turned the game on its head, didn't it?
I mean, yeah, when you can bring a player like that into the game off the bench, it's great depth from United, and I mean they just switched it on. It's like they just flicked the switch and boom, it was 4-0. You blinked your eyes and it was 4-0. I think they're really going to go to town on quite a few teams, which we've seen already, and it wouldn't surprise me if we saw a few more 4 or 5-0 sort of victories for them with the way they're playing and that their firepower up front and the stability in their midfield. It wouldn't surprise me at all if we saw more results like that from those guys, because they're scintillating to watch at the moment when they all click.
Well, it's been 110 years since they started with this many goals in their opening 2 games. 1907, I think, was the last time they scored 8 goals in their first 2 games. It's a scary prospect, and Fryer Tuck will talk about their upcoming match against you guys in a little bit. But from what you saw of them against Swansea, what have you made of their start to the season, of their depth and their sort of their title credentials, I suppose?
Well, I did note early in the first podcast that what Mourinho's building there is a pretty good team. It's starting to click. You're starting to see his influence on the team, and the recent results have really shown themselves. And they've proved it's no fluke. They're delivering results against teams they really should be beating, and they've done it in such style. They look really formidable, and as Cruyff said, they're a really solid team on paper, and they could be giving out the beltings left, right, and centre to these smaller teams, and they look really good, and it's going to be a tough prospect for us next for the upcoming game. I think it's going to. Sorry,
That's all right.
The big challenge for them is. Sorry, the big challenge for them is, can they do it against the bigger teams as well? It's going to. That's what I want. If they can prove themselves against the big boys, I'd say they will be the one to beat, but certainly not, give them the title already. It's way too early for that, but they look good at this point in time.
I mean, it's an interesting point you make because, of course, Lukaku has a bit of a reputation of being able to beat up on those smaller clubs. So, in a sense, that the fact that they've done well against West Ham and Swansea doesn't mean a whole lot because, as you say, we'll need to see how they go against the bigger clubs. And, I mean, I'm not putting Leicester in the same bracket as a Liverpool or a Chelsea, but, of course, this week will be probably the toughest game of the season so far. And, of course, we'll talk about that in a bit in more detail. But in terms of seeing how Lukaku goes for them in the bigger games, I think that'll be their biggest test. The really interesting thing for me, and I suppose to an extent it's because I've got him in my fantasy team, but paying a lot more attention to Pogba this season, and I'm sure United supporters would tell me that he's done this last season as well, but he just looks such a physical beast, and I don't know if you guys saw in the first half alone a few instances where he gets into the box or, he's on the ball and he can just hold his man off and really strongly retain possession and really set up those attacking runs for Lukaku. It's incredible.
I think Matic coming in has definitely helped.
Absolutely.
and a bit more, I guess the system's a bit more fluid now. You can see they don't look so rigid when they go forward. They're not wasting chances. And Pogba's been given that freedom, and he's starting to look like that £90 million footballer that Man United bought last season.
Absolutely. And I suppose the team that let Matic go is a team that we should talk about next in Chelsea, who we were sort of previewing this game last week as a clash of the two teams that are penny pinching a bit, so to speak. Haven't really spent a whole lot in the transfer window, and I think today Spurs are set to announce the signing of a couple of players, so at least they'll be off the mark in that sense. But I mean, we're not any clearer in understanding whether there are these Wembley hoodoo issues for Spurs or not. Fryer Tuck, result for Chelsea was a good one. For Spurs, it's a pretty poor one, really. To lose at home to Chelsea when they had such a good record in London derbies, especially last season at home.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I recall correctly, they went undefeated at home for about 15 months or something like that. It was an incredible run, and I mean, they put a decent performance in, but I mean, the Chelsea team we've seen looks a bit lacking at the moment. So you would have thought this would have been a good chance to get a win on the board against their rivals and set themselves off, but. Yeah, they were left lacking there.
So Cruyff, speaking of Kane, I mean, obviously saw the stat during the week, but Batshuayi has now scored more goals in August for Spurs than Kane has. Is Kane's form of any concern, do you reckon? He hasn't scored in any game for Spurs in August so far.
I mean, he started slow last year, I think, and he wound up with the Golden Boot, so I don't think Spurs fans should be too concerned at the moment. I can't see him maintaining his poor form for the season. I mean, if he still hasn't scored by the end of September or mid-October, then I think question marks should be above his head. But as I said, last season he started poorly, and look how he finished it. So I don't think there's too much cause for concern at the moment.
And then I guess from the Chelsea point of view, good result for them, Fryer Tuck, and obviously great result for Alonso, who's been in pretty ridiculous form for a defender, and another peach of a free kick from him. It's kind of hard to get a read on Chelsea at the moment, losing at home to Burnley, but then going away from home and beating Spurs.
Yeah, bit inconsistent. As we know, they as we've noted, they're lacking a bit of depth, but. So, did you say Chelsea or Tottenham were getting players in? I think you said Spurs were, right?
Spurs, I think, are announcing a couple of players today from what I saw. Not sure about Chelsea. I know that they've sort of been, funnily enough, being linked to Vardy. So, what have you made of that?
I heard that one. Seems like they just want the whole 15-16 team by the sounds of it. Mahrez, Drinkwater, now Vardy.
Already got Kante, so getting the old gang back together.
Yeah, playing for another blue team down south. Yeah, I don't think anything is going to come from the Vardy one. I think if any of them were likely to come true, probably would be the Drinkwater one. But I've talked to Chef about this. Chelsea's going to have to pay the full 40. We're not going to be selling him for anything less. And
do you think if he sold, it's a big blow?
Well, to be honest, if it was last year, yes, but we've actually got some decent replacements in, some decent centre midfielders in, like Iborra and a rejuvenated Matty James, and Matty James looks really solid at this point in time. Drinkwater's been a bit out of form for the better part of half a season, but it'll be a blow, but not as much as it would have been had this happened last year, honestly.
Well, two teams that have been spending pretty heavily in the off-season in comparison to Chelsea and Spurs is Everton and Man City, who faced up in the Monday night game, or Tuesday morning our time. There wasn't a whole lot to take out of a 1-1 draw. It was sort of spoiled by two red cards, and to be honest, I'm still a bit shaken up, having seen Kyle Walker's vicious attack on Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I'm surprised that he was actually able to get back to his feet from that heavy blow that he suffered to his head. But Cruyff, what did you make of the result, I suppose? And I mean, it's a bit concerning that City still seem to struggle to kind of click into gear. They didn't look too convincing against Brighton in the first round either.
I caught a bit of that game before work yesterday, but I think I read on the board that Everton played with 7 defensive players. Given all of City's firepower, though, when the opposing manager is so negative, it's hard to break down and find the back of the net. You do need luck sometimes, and I don't think City should be too concerned. But I mean, the going down to 10 men obviously played a big part, and if they had 11 on the pitch, they would have pressed harder and come away with 3 points. But it's a shame that a horrible refereeing decision ruined the game essentially for City, and they couldn't get something out of it.
I mean, it was interesting to an extent because I know, as you say that though, it was weird that Everton sort of sat back after the red card and invited them on, and I know it was still quite difficult for them with the 10 men to really capitalise on it, but obviously Sterling able to get the equaliser late on. Fryer Tuck, do you think? I mean, one of the criticisms levelled of the City squad, I suppose, is how unbalanced it is, where they've got so many attacking options that they had to start Sané at left wing back because they didn't have many capable fullbacks. Given the fact that Kyle Walker got himself sent off, Mendy's still injured, they just seem to be focusing on the wrong end of the pitch at the moment.
It's a bit of. They do look a bit balanced, in all honesty, but I kind of felt like they should have taken. Well, I mean, I know they went down to 10 men, and they did pretty well to get the point even then, but. Yeah, it does. They do look a little bit unbalanced. I don't know what more is left for them for the transfer window, but
well, by all reports, they're going after Sanchez.
Sanchez. Oh, he'll be a good addition. It'll be a good addition for them, that's for sure. But I don't know. They have the right makings there. I mean, they got Kyle Walker. I mean, okay, I'll admit he's a bit overpriced, but on harsh red card. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure what to make of them. They've got the makings there, but yeah, as you said, they're imbalanced, and it just feels like there's something missing about them. I mean, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I mean, when they won the title under Mancini, when they had such a great core of that squad, he brought in players like Aguero, Silva, Toure. They had company. They had this team, Zabaleta. They just felt like they actually had this core of a great team. Hart was in good form as well. They had this, and Dzeko up top as well. Whereas now it just feels like they've got all of these players who don't really seem to be able to click and really work as a team together. And it feels like they've thrown a whole lot of money at the wall, hoping some of it sticks. But I just feel like, I mean, if they look like they're not going to win a trophy this season, then what do they do with Guardiola? Do they just sort of stick with him because they don't dare sack such a big name? But
depends though. What if they walked away with the FA Cup? Does that?
Oh well, sorry. Yeah, but that's what I mean. As in, if they look like not winning any trophies.
I mean, I think the problem with Pep is his philosophy worked at Barcelona, which was great. I mean, we saw that the Barca team, I think, one season won 7 trophies. But I think in England particularly, he needs to start playing his players in position. You can't be playing your defensive midfielders on the right wing or your centre backs at centre midfield. If he buys players, they should be played in their position, and he should have a system that suits the players he's bought in.
That's it. I mean, it just feels like he's not flexible enough. We had the discussion last season.
You would think once he has all of that and the players will click, they could beat anyone. Because City don't have poor players. I mean, you got Sané, Sterling, Aguero, Silva, KDB. The back fours, it needs a bit of work, but it's getting better. So it's not like they don't have the players to succeed.
No, absolutely. It's just the fact that they don't seem to be able to click.
Yeah, and if that becomes good, then we might be saying something different in a few months. But it's all up in the air at the moment. You do see shades of potential there, but there's still some things where you think, what are they doing here? But I guess it's up for us to see.
Well, one team that does seem to be clicking at the moment is Huddersfield Town as the one lone representation of Yorkshire in the Premier League. As Fryer Tuck has noted in the past, but of course making headlines because of their Australian player in Aaron Moy doing so well with that incredible goal against Newcastle on Sunday night to get them the win. One of only 3 undefeated and teams that have only won their games so far, sitting up top with 6 points. A pretty impressive start for them, Fryer Tuck, and long may it continue.
Oh, indeed. And to think that everyone was saying this is the lot that's going to be competing with Derby for the worst team in the Premier League. Those were the comments prior to the season. I mean, being a team that had a negative goal difference when they got promoted through the playoffs, and it looked like they had a huge mountain to climb for them. But no, fair credit to them. They're showing shades of what made them so competitive in the championship, actually pushing for that title. They've made some good transfers. They got Moy on a permanent, and they're riding off that new promoted energy, and 2 from 2 so far, and if they can keep it up, they'll give themselves a nice base. Kind of reminds me of another Yorkshire team that went up for the first time and performed pretty well. I think was it.
Oh, we did all right. We did all right that first season, didn't we? We what were we? I think we were equal top in October. Well, I think we're sitting 3rd, but equal top. Just down on goal difference, but it's an incredible ride to go on, and I think it was Bostonian who was sort of lamenting in the off-season, and unfortunately his side hasn't had the same sort of start as Huddersfield have managed. But as a promoted club, all you can do is sort of just get caught up in that wave of excitement and just enjoy the journey, because if you don't enjoy the journey, before too long you're facing relegation, you're back in the championship, and it's all back to the slog of trying to win and get promoted again. So you've kind of got to enjoy it while it's good. Otherwise, what's there to look forward to in football? Cruyff, what did you make of the result?
I think, great result, and it's good to see Moy dominating and making headlines and getting a reputation in England as opposed to just here in Australia. And you think if Huddersfield do get relegated, he might be picked up by sort of maybe a Southampton level club or something like that. But I think with Huddersfield, they've got these 6 points, which will be vital for them, because we've seen so often that these newly promoted clubs come in and do well, but then they fall off come Christmas time, and then they're in a relegation scrap. So anything Huddersfield can take right now, they obviously will take, but it's going to be key for them, I think, to take as much as they can early on while they're on this. They've got the momentum. They're riding the wave of success, and everything. The vibe there is all high, and everyone's happy, because so quickly it could just turn like that, and then they could lose 3 on the trot. There could be talk of Wagner leaving or whatever, and they just need to keep maintaining it for as long as they can, because I'm sure you guys both know that things can get very tough in the Premier League when things don't go your way.
And I mean, they've got some fantastic fixtures to start the season. In the next few weeks, they've got teams like Southampton at home, West Ham, who are in all sorts at the moment. They've got Burnley, they've got Swansea, they've got West Brom at home. So in their first 12 games, if they can manage to get 20 points on the board, then they're already
halfway
on their way, halfway to safety in the first third of the season. Would be an incredible result for them, and really to get 12 points, they're only needing another 6 points, so they only need another 2 wins out of their next 9 games or something. It's eminently achievable, but as you say, Cruyff, I mean, it is a hallmark of these promoted clubs, as I well know last season, as another club that managed to win their first 2 games after promotion, that it can all turn quite quickly, and you've really just got to make the most of it while you can.
Yeah, definitely, and if Huddersfield do stay up, it would be obviously great for them. But a lot of these, again, promoted clubs, these sort of lower reputation ones, they suffer from second season syndrome. They'll have a cracking first season, everyone will be talking about them, everyone will like them, and then the second season will come along and they'll be struggling for wins and struggling to find the back of the net. They'll be leaking goals. So it'll be interesting to see what path Huddersfield take. And I think many Australians do have a soft spot for them because of Moy. So I don't think anyone would begrudge them of staying up.
Well, one team that certainly didn't have any issues with second season syndrome and actually had a pretty cracking second season after promotion, Fryer Tuck, was Leicester, and they come up against United this weekend in a probably game of the round, really, looking at the form of United at the moment, and also Leicester sort of looking pretty convincing in their first two games as well. Especially judging by their first game against Arsenal, it looks like there's going to be a fair few goals in this one. But what do you make of this game to start with, Fryer Tuck?
Well, this is going to be a big test, that's for sure. I mean, this is for both clubs really. United to see if they can do it against us, to see if they can keep up their form, especially with a more, well, I don't want to say it, but a bit more of a formidable club, and for us to see if we can actually, well, get a result against United. I mean, United Leicester games ever since we've come back up have usually been pretty exciting. For what reason or another, to be honest. But yeah, for United fans, I'll let you know that we're most likely going to see Robert Huth return for this game with Wes Morgan's back problems. Between us Leicester fans, we kind of feel that Huth will actually complement the your old boy Maguire pretty darn well, and will provide us some good attacking options on the right side as well. So you got Fuchs on the left, you got Maguire, who's most likely going to be on the right side of Schmeichel, providing that option on the right. So you've got a more formidable back line.
Just curious on Maguire, when you signed him, was the intention that he was going to be that sort of third choice depth centre back, or was the intention always that he'd be sort of starting 11? Because I got the impression that he was more going to be coming in as the season progressed to replace Morgan as he got a bit older, or Huth if one of them picked up an injury. And obviously Morgan being injured in pre-season meant that Maguire got his chance. But he now, almost from the sounds of things, is a first choice centre back for you.
I think you probably would be spot on the money because, well, they're all of our centre backs are in their mid 30s now, and you got to start thinking about replacing them. And Maguire offered us another option because he's a ball playing centre back. And I was talking to Mumba about comparing him to John Stone. So he offered us another option in regards that he could actually play the ball rather than, hoofing it to Vardy and going from there.
So he is quite good with his long balls.
Yes, he has proven himself to be quite useful there as well. But no, he was meant to be a transitional replacement as the season went by. But as you said, he got his start a bit earlier, and now we love him. We can't. There's no. He's basically first. Well, we'll say second name on the sheet after Vardy. Basically, us Leicester fans absolutely love him. We kind of wish we had another centre back to go with him, another younger centre back. That is.
Yeah, he quickly endeared himself to Hull fans, even when he wasn't a regular name on our starting sheet, just because of the way. First of all, that he throws himself into tackles, and also the fact that he's so good on the ball. When I saw an article from a Leicester blog, I think, where they were talking about the fact that he doesn't look overweight, but he looks very meaty. And despite that, he's actually quite agile on the ball, and his footwork with the ball at feet is actually quite amazingly good considering his size. So he's in that sense, he's great to watch when he can sort of pass by attacking players when you would expect him to sort of get the ball caught under his feet or something.
Yeah, that's one thing we noted. He is a bit of a chunky monkey, that fella, but boy, he knows how to play. And well, when we saw against Brighton, he also dominates in the air. I mean, I know it's Brighton, but he's got all the hallmarks of what we're used to at Leicester, the big burly centre back dominating his space and being a presence when required. And you combine a bit of Christian Fuchs into that, and you got someone that doesn't get shoved off the ball, knows how to create those chances. So it's all pretty darn exciting with him, to be honest.
And Cruyff, I mean, we've talked about Leicester there, but also we've touched on United earlier in our discussion of the Swansea game. But big test for United in this one, I guess, in terms of being, I guess their biggest test of the season so far. What do you make of United's chances in this one? Do you see them sort of carrying on with their great form to start the season, or do you see this as perhaps being A game where, I mean, Leicester have had their measure in recent seasons in matchups between the two sides, so could be quite an interesting one.
It's at the King Power, so I think that gives Leicester a little
Old
bit.
Trafford, actually.
Oh, it's Old Trafford.
Yeah.
Then I can't see Leicester walking away with 3 points. I think United at home will pulverise them.
Pulverise?
I think. I think Maguire will be in for a big test. It'll be interesting to see how he handles Lukaku, who's not exactly a small guy. He's 6'3", he weighs probably 100 kegs. So it's going to be interesting to see how he handles someone with the brute force. And then you've got the trickery of the wingers, the speed of Rashford, McKittrick and Marta's creativity, Pogba and Matic in midfield. It could be ugly for Leicester, but with the way they've been playing, though, it wouldn't surprise you, on the other hand, that they do take something away. But I think it would be foolish not to say United would be favourite. But
Yeah.
Leicester are capable of an upset when you look at the history between the two clubs and recent games. But with the way United's been going, it's too hard to look past them.
I do tend to agree, and I think it'll be a relatively high-scoring game, so I wouldn't be surprised to see United maybe winning at 3-2 or 4-3 or something like that. I do tend to agree that United will probably win it, but it wouldn't surprise me either to see a high-scoring draw. Fryer Tuck, what are you thinking score-wise?
Oh, jeez. I think it's going to be. Actually, that's a good one because why is relatively untested somewhat, especially with the new season. I think they'll get along pretty well, but I don't think we'll see their defensive cohesiveness until maybe a game or two later. I think Vardy, Mahrez, and Okazaki, surprisingly, he looks like a different striker this season. They're going to give United a test at the back, I'd say. It's going to be net to net action in all honesty. I'd say I want to back us. United are rightly favourites. They've proven themselves pretty well. But I remember the last time United went into a Leicester game after winning 4-0. We all know what happened there.
Well, another high-scoring game that we might have to look forward to is United against Liverpool Arsenal against Liverpool, I should say. With
Two games
in a weekend will be busy for United. Yeah. Arsenal against Liverpool, with both defences not looking in too great a form. Cruyff, what are you making of Arsenal so far this season? Obviously, contrasting results with the win against Leicester and then the loss against Stoke. Coming up against Liverpool, who, they had their 3-3 draw with Watford, which wasn't too great, and they had a 1-0 win against Palace, which wasn't too great. So it seems a quite open game where either side could really walk away with the points in this one.
I think being at Anfield favours Liverpool heavily. Koscielny's back apparently, which is a huge in for us. We definitely need some leadership and natural playing centre-back in our lineup playing at centre-back. I think Mane will run riot. I think Firmino will have a bit of fun too. But, I mean, Zidane on the board made a point that there's no Lallana or Coutinho to feed them. I don't think that will make much of a difference. Liverpool have beaten us most of the time in recent years, and I think that will continue. I don't think we have the right squad players to really progress this season, and we should have done a lot more in the market. And it's disappointing to see that. I mean, we've brought in Kolasinac, which is good, but we should have brought in another centre back. We should have brought in some more depth. We needed a right wing. It would have been great if we could land Mahrez. We should have brought a proper defensive midfielder to play beside Xhaka, and we could have more naturally positioned players in our team. But it's Wenger, and you never know what he's going to bring up. So I think Liverpool will beat us, and I think they'll beat us comfortably.
Fryer Tuck, how do you see this one panning out?
It's a bit of a weird one because when I saw the pre-season, Liverpool looked really darn good, but then come season proper, I mean, we saw that we were having the live scores and we were laughing at Liverpool. It's like, oh, well, Watford ahead, and Yeah, they looked. I mean, well, that shows that you can't take everything from the pre-season. Arsenal. Well, as Cruyff summed it up pretty nicely there, but usually any other week, this would be the match of the round, but it doesn't feel the same this time around because both sides don't exactly look stellar at this time.
Cruyff, what are you making of a score prediction for this one? High-scoring draw, perhaps? I think that's that's where my mind's heading. Is it tends to be these sorts of high-scoring matches between the two, and perhaps a 2-2 or a 3-3 draws in store.
I think 3-1 Liverpool.
Oh, bit negative there. Fryer Tuck, what are you thinking?
Negative or realistic. So negative or realistic. So it's sorry to cut you off again, FT, but I don't really have that much confidence in us getting a result. I mean, Liverpool are a bit shaky at the back, but we look so rigid going forward, and it doesn't. You've got Lacazette who knows where the net is, but when he's not getting proper service, it's hard to get him to find the net. So it is a bit of an iffy one for me. But yeah, I think it'll be Liverpool.
And Fryer Tuck, what do you reckon about a score for this one?
I'll be kind and I'll say it'll be a 2-2 draw. I think as Arsenal have proven that they can when they do get it, they do take their chances. So as we saw against us, of course. So I wouldn't back him out entirely. I'd say 2-2 is what the score will be.
Well, hopefully it goes the way of Cruyff's team for that one. We all like a good Liverpool melt on the board. But thank you for coming on, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
And thank you everyone for listening in. Hopefully until next week when we catch up again, your team has got the win. But until then, we'll see you on the board.